What's up, everybody? It's waba. So, yesterday I had a friend of mine ask me about using Arctic Armour on a Mind Over Matter build. And it kind of got me thinking about Arctic Armour a little bit. And I thought I'd make a video talking about it. You know, Arctic Armour used to be really cool in Path of Exile. It had like a mana drain effect that you had to overcome. Once you got enough mana regen, you would be able to level it. The quality was like a low-key OP quality, because it had movement speed. It wasn't too valued back then. Maybe it was valued. Maybe I just wasn't as much in the know as I am now, relatively speaking, at least. But you know, you could get like getting like a level 21 or 22 Arctic Armour with quality was like super cool, right? Because you got movement speed and you got all this flat physical damage reduction and flat fire damage reduction versus hits, which is obviously pretty good because that works really well just in general. And it usually was put onto Eldritch Battery and Mind Over Matter characters, to my recollection. I did ask a few people if they recalled Arctic Armour being used by other builds, like other like non-casters, and well, I kind of asked the wrong people, but I don't really recall it being used that often by non-EB MOM characters. And you know, it's also funny, about almost a year ago I made a video talking about Eldritch Battery, a little tangent, but I pretty much said that Eldritch Battery needed to have some change to it so it could stay relevant in the meta. And well, kind of look where it is now. And the reason why I bring this up is because, you know, Eldritch Battery, Mind Over Matter, and Arctic Armour were it was like the trifecta of builds back in the day. And it was an interesting use of mechanics. Yeah, it was a little strong, and for it to be nerfed was fine, but it wasn't just nerfed, it's now just absolutely gone. So I wanted to talk about Arctic Armour specifically. So, you know, Arctic Armour, first off, you have to be stationary when you're using Arctic Armour, which kind of sucks. In fact, the only builds that really utilize Arctic Armour now are, for the most part, melee builds, because, well, they are stationary while they're attacking. But you also get less damage taken from physical and fire while you're stationary. But the way that this works is it's applied at the end of the calculation. Therefore, it's not as efficient when you have all sorts of physical or fire damage reduction. You know, fire damage, you already have your resists, so it's not nearly as good for fire. For physical damage, if you're already rocking 8 or 9 endurance charges, or just any amount of endurance charges and a little bit of armor, it's not really that efficient. And I asked a few players who were using it, because there are plenty of people using it right now in Path of Exile, and the gist that I got from all those players is that they only use it because A, they have plenty of damage and there's nothing else to use, B, they use it whenever they're running Hex-worded maps, because a lot of people would rather run a Blasphemy Enfeeble setup over Arctic Armour. And I guess I shouldn't really go with A and B, because there's no real C. Those are the only two reasons why people would realistically use it. And then that also got me thinking, you know, to my friend who asked, should I use Arctic Armour? And I said, well, it's okay versus physical damage, but you have to be stationary. It's okay. It's not really that important versus fire damage, whatever. But when it comes down to it, of the damage types, I think that physical damage and fire damage is probably the least dangerous damage types. Now, let's look at physical damage, for example. You know, again, you have to be standing still, and it doesn't work versus damage over time effects, according to the wiki. So it won't really help you versus bleeds. And, you know, big physical hits it's not really too much of a threat in Path of Exile. Maybe I'm being a little naive there. Maybe big physical hits are a big deal. But most of the time, you're not going to be in a position where you're standing still to take a big physical hit in order to benefit from Arctic Armor. Then same thing with fire damage. You know, you have your fire resist, like I mentioned earlier, so that already means that Arctic Armor is not as efficient. And then again, it doesn't even work on the damage over time aspect of fire damage, you know, in ignite or burning damage. And on top of that, your resist and your regen works against that. So like ignite is like the least dangerous thing when it comes to elemental ailments in Path of Exile versus players. So yeah, it's not that good versus, or it's okay. Let's just say it's okay, finger air quotations, versus physical and fire damage. But it absolutely is not good versus chaos damage. It just, if you, let's just say you do use it on a mind over matter build, you're absolutely dropping your effective health versus chaos damage. And chaos damage is, you know, kind of a bigger threat in Path of Exile just by virtue of players not really getting that much. I think this is being generous, but most players probably average 10 to 20% positive chaos resist. And I think that's generous. So it doesn't help you versus that. Great. Cold damage. Well, cold damage, if you get hit with a really large hit of cold damage, you are then frozen, which is objectively much more threatening than being ignited, right? If you're frozen, you become vulnerable to other things. You can't move, you can't avoid things. I guess while you're frozen, Arctic Armor kicks in because you're standing still, but I don't think it's good enough, because if you just got frozen, there's a good chance you just got hit with some large bit of cold damage, so you're already going to be in a vulnerable position. So, and then we have lightning damage. Of all the elements, I think this one is the most dangerous because, well, if you get hit with if you get smacked with a really large bit of lightning damage, you're going to get shocked, and you're going to take up to 50% increased damage from all sources. That might be different for mobs, but either here, that's whatever. You're still going to be taking increased damage from all sources, which is a more multiplier on top of you, which, again, not very good. So, Arctic Armor is maybe okay versus fire damage and physical damage, but it is absolutely hurting you when it comes to chaos damage, cold damage, and lightning damage for certain builds. And I mean, the conclusion that I came to about Arctic Armor is like pretty simple. If you could use it and it doesn't impact your effective health, then fine. If you have no other form of physical damage reduction, the better it gets. But it really doesn't seem worth the cost, and players are only using it because there's nothing else to use. I mean, it's just pretty boring. I bring this up because I think there's an opportunity here for GGG to potentially revisit the skill and make some more use out of it. I think its mana cost is way too high right now. And I'm not saying let's go back to the way it was before, even though that would be great, and I would be all for it. But it's a dead skill. It's outdated. It is only used. I don't want to say this definitively, but as far as I could tell, it's realistically only used in situations where there's just nothing else to use. And to me, that doesn't seem fun. There's no point in it. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What other skills are kind of in the same position as Arctic Armor? You know, like I said earlier in the video, I did make that video talking about Eldritch Battery a year ago. And I should probably look at how many players are actually using Eldritch Battery. Let's do that. as of right now, in hardcore Incursion, less than 1% of players on PoE.Ninja are using Eldritch Battery. And of those people, 88% of them are using Tinkerskin, so it's reasonable to say that most of them are trappers. And this is actually something that I said in that video a year ago. But Eldritch Battery, Arctic Armour, again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And hopefully, something good could come out of this little short discussion slash rant slash Wabachop being an idiot, whatever you want to call it. Hey, interesting. Nearly all saboteurs. Alright, see you guys later.